सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। So we will start the Bhagavad Gita 4th chapter. If you look at the Bhagavad Gita, actually it has 18 chapters and around 700 verses are there. But we have selected the 4th chapter for this particular retreat. Because again, the 4th chapter has some very interesting topics dealt with by Bhagavan. Actually, if you look at the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan thought that he has finished teaching Arjuna already. When the 4th chapter is starting, in the vision of Bhagavan, already he has taught everything that needs to be taught in the 2nd chapter itself. But Arjuna asked a question again in the beginning of the 3rd chapter. So he explained further. And in the beginning of the 4th chapter, he is actually giving the parampara, the sampradaya, what he started. So generally in our texts, whenever any knowledge is presented, correct, even whether it's Upanishad or even other texts, to show that this knowledge is not something new. This knowledge is always there. It is coming in a certain tradition, in a lineage. They will mention the Guru Shishya Parampara. Even in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and all, one whole Brahmana is only that. Particularly at the end of the chapter, the last Brahmana will have only the this Vamshanucharitam and all we say, correct? Who taught whom? And like that, son of this person learned from son of that person, like that, their whole list will be there. So that is presented to show that the teaching is authentic and it is not something new or anything like that. This, because for us, every knowledge comes from Bhagavan. Understand that there is no knowledge is really new. Because all knowledge is already there, correct? If you say Bhagavan is all knowledge, then no knowledge can be new. Understand that. All knowledge is already there. But in us, that knowledge is covered. We have ignorance. Bhagavan doesn't have any ignorance. Bhagavan is all knowledge. And that all knowledge alone is manifest as this Jagat, correct? Because the Jagat is nothing but a visualization of Bhagavan. Tad Aikshata, like that the Upanishad says. That Sadvastu was there without any differentiation and then it visualized. It Aikshata, it saw. Like even we saw the dream world, correct? We were there in deep sleep only as existence and suddenly we visualized and the entire dream world is there. Like that, this waking world is no different. It is Satvastu Tad Aikshata, like that the Upanishad presents. So it's all knowledge. All knowledge is already there for Bhagavan. But it is covered for us from our standpoint because we have a mind. Mind itself is a covering, really speaking. And for that knowledge to take place, the covering to go, there has to be a manovritti has to take place in our mind. Then only the knowledge takes place. That is our understanding of knowledge. Means there is no real new knowledge produced. All knowledge is nothing but discovery or discovering, uncovering the ignorance or destroying the ignorance alone is knowledge for us. So generally, any time knowledge is talked about, how did this knowledge come means it is always traced to Bhagavan, and Bhagavan taught to some rishi taught to another rishi, like that is always given. Even Upanishads also, the stories like that are there. If you take Mundaka Upanishad, it starts like that. Brahma had this knowledge, then he taught to some rishi, like that there is a story is given. Like I told in Brihadaranyaka also, in the end, all this Vamsha Anucharita is given. So this is to only show, praise the knowledge, that this knowledge is coming from Ishvara. Ishvara is the source of knowledge for us. In fact, Ishvara is the source of everything. But Ishvara is the source of knowledge. This revealed knowledge is coming from Ishvara. And what is this knowledge in the context of Gita, which Bhagavan is talking about? Gita is a moksha shastra, we say. Right? Whenever we chant Bhagavad Gita, any chapter, how do we end? But during eating, in the lunch also, we chant the 15th chapter, correct? Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade. Like this we say, correct? Then some yoga. Purushottama Yogo Nama Panchadashodhyayaha. Like that, for 15th chapter we say. The 4th chapter is called Jnana Yoga. But we will come to that. So, when we say that what Gita, how do we look at Gita? Gita itself, we are looking at it like an Upanishad. That's why we say Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishadsu. Gita is sometimes called Gita Upanishad also. That is because the knowledge presented in the Gita is not any different from the knowledge presented in any Upanishad. It is the same knowledge. Krishna did not start anything new. Understand that. Krishna was already born in this tradition. He went to Gurukula also. Correct? Rama also went to Gurukula. Rama studied with Vashishta. Krishna went and studied with Sandipani. That's why Chinmayananji started one Sandipani Sadhanalaya in Mumbai, correct? Because Krishna also went to Gurukula, means this dharma, all this jnanam, it's not Krishna's knowledge or anything like that. Or Krishna has started something new path. All these things are always there. And Krishna himself starts this 4th chapter like that. Very interesting. We'll see that. But what is this teaching he is talking about? Which is whatever has been taught in Upanishad. But additionally, we also say, so Upanishad, so in Upanishad, Brahma Vidya is the main thing because Upanishad itself means Brahma Vidya. That we saw, correct? So Upanishad, so Brahma Vidyayam, Yoga Shastre also is there. That is the beauty of Gita. In the Gita, not only Brahma Vidya as a subject matter is presented, but for you to qualify for that knowledge, whatever you have to do, that also is talked about. In many Upanishads, those things are not talked about. In fact, it's assumed that you are already a qualified student, and you then the straight away the subject matter it begins. Like you go to a university, somebody is teaching quantum physics. If you go and enroll in the university, the professor assumes that you already know other things, correct? All the prerequisites you already have. And they start with some Schrodinger's equation and all that. But if you don't have any prerequisite and go and sit there, it's all going to go over your head, correct? You will say, okay, I believe whatever you say. But you don't go and sit in a class to believe, understand that. The same thing applies to Vedanta also. You cannot come here, sit and say that, no, I believe you are a great person. You are a jnani. I believe whatever you say. That's not the reason you have come here. You have come here to understand and transform yourself, right? It has to have a result for you. It's not going to come by just believing something. In fact, Vedanta itself is not promising you anything. It is a statement of fact. Whatever is there, it is telling. It is like saying water is H2O. If you go and tell that to a child will not understand, correct? What is H2O? Means you have to have some basic knowledge of chemistry. What is hydrogen, oxygen, how these two things can come and bond with each other and form some kind of a liquid structure. All this we can learn and understand. And then we can, when you understand all that and say water is H2O, that is fine. Correct? There is a certain understanding for you. What is that? But then you tell somebody else, he says, no, I believe you. Water is H2O, I believe you means when that person does not have any knowledge really. Like that, Vedanta also is like that. Vedanta is talking about Brahma Vidya, but you cannot say, I believe that. If you are in that stage, you can be there, nothing wrong. Everybody starts from there only, correct? Like our Swamiji said that everybody has to start from kindergarten. But that doesn't mean that kindergarten is any less than anything else. You have to start from there, and with that basis only you are going up and up. Like that, Gita also talks about Yoga Shastra. Yoga Shastra means what? Anything which helps to make yourself qualified for this knowledge is Yoga Shastra. And that is talked about a lot in Gita because of the context of the Gita itself. Because Gita is taught in a battlefield by Krishna to Arjuna. So here also the beauty is that Krishna and Arjuna are very thick friends. They have gone on many different escapades together in Mahabharata itself. If you read, they are there together. They go all over the place. They do so many things. But Krishna never taught Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna at any of those times, correct? Krishna never broached this particular subject matter. They were discussing so many other things. But suddenly, in the context of the battle, what happens? Arjuna has a certain dharma sankata, you can say. He doesn't know what to do. Because in his vision, whatever he does, it is like he is a loser. In fact, we can relate to that very much, correct? Many times in our life also, we become helpless, or you think that whatever you do, you don't look at yourself in a situation where you are gaining anything or you are any better. So Arjuna found himself in such a situation, and suddenly he wanted to find the solution to that fundamental problem. Okay. Otherwise, Arjuna is not an ordinary person, correct? He fought with Lord Shiva himself to get the Pashupatastra and all that. So he is a great accomplished person. In fact, even great accomplished persons can have a problem like this. In fact, the one who is very accomplished only is highly qualified for Vedanta. Because you should have had some accomplishment and seen the limitations of your own accomplishment. Such a person is highly qualified for Vedanta. Otherwise, if you are very driven to accomplish something and all, we'll give you Ashirvad and say, okay, go and do, accomplish whatever you want to accomplish, but at least be Dharmika. Because our Vaidika Marga is that the Veda itself talks about both things. It talks about the Karma Kanda, in fact, 98% of the Veda is only talking about doing karma. But Veda itself says karma phala is limited. It's not going to give you permanent solution and all that. But even if the Veda tells that, and if you are not ready to listen, that what will the Veda do? For somebody who is highly driven and desirous to do something, you cannot tell that person, don't do this. Give up all these things, come and sit in the Rishikesh ashram for a retreat means they will not come, correct? They will think you are crazy. All these sadhus are all crazy people, useless people sitting there. Lazy people also. Some people even may say all that. So for such a person, what the Veda is saying is that it is giving you a vision there that you do whatever you want to do, but then do not become greedy. What is greed? So the Shastra, in fact, Gita also, Bhagavan talks about Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya and all these things. Correct? It's called Shad Ripu or 6 enemies of oneself. So Kama is desire, you can say, likes and dislikes. Now Kama is presented in one place as not something very desirable, but later on, if you see, in the 7th chapter, Bhagavan says, Dharma aviruddha kamosmi bharatarshava. I am manifest as the desire in you, which is not opposed to dharma, he says. I am the very kama itself is me. So that also is said that kama is a manifestation of Bhagavan. But kama also is a problem for you as an individual. Why? When does it become a problem then? Because kama is ichha shakti, we can say. The power to desire is there with us. In fact, it's a privilege. All of us have the power to desire. And why is it a privilege? Because only I can desire for an iPhone, correct? As a human being. A cow has no capability to desire for iPhone. Or you have a desire to have a candlelit dinner in a Chinese restaurant, let us say. Cow doesn't understand all that. Even if you give something, you think it is very delicious thing, cow will not even come near that. and whatever you don't want, it will eat. In fact, our economy was like that, correct? Whatever is our waste, cow was consuming that, and whatever cow is giving, we were consuming that. It was a nice cycle we had. But what I am saying is the ability to desire, the power to desire is an Icha Shakti. It is a Shakti which is given to us by Bhagavan. It's a privilege. But that privilege can become a problem also if you are not able to use the Shakti properly. Correct? If you are like any other Shakti, any power, with power comes responsibility, we say. But if you don't have the responsibility and if you are not mature, then that very power can turn on you and it becomes a problem for you. Like that karma, if you are under the spell of the karma, then it becomes a problem for you. That's what Tayorna Vashamagachet. He says that in the third chapter already. Don't come under the spell of your own likes and dislikes. You have to be the master of your likes and dislikes, not the other way around. Because if you are under the spell of your likes and dislikes, then you have a tendency to compromise the means, correct? So the Veda is saying having a desire is not a problem, but at least have the proper means to do that. But the desire itself becomes a problem if you compromise the means. You do adharma. So if you are ready to do adharma to achieve your desires, then it becomes greed. When does something become a greed? Because we talk about ambition, desire, and all that. A desire of a beggar may be something, desire of a great industrialist may be different, correct? So who can desire what? Even within human beings, different people are privileged differently. They have different levels of desires and all that. That itself is not a problem, in fact. But when does it become a problem? When you think that you cannot be happy unless I fulfill this desire. Correct? Then it becomes a binding desire. And then for that purpose, the next step will be what? Then I am ready to do anything, whatever it takes, I am ready to do to achieve that means. Then you are ready to compromise on what is right, your own values. Because all of us know Samanya Dharma is something we all commonly sense. That's why it is Samanya. It is common for all. What is the Samanya Dharma? It is very simple. I am very clear about what I want. Correct? Everybody is 100% dharmic with reference to oneself, particularly with reference to the behavior of others towards oneself. I am 100% clear, dharmic, because they have to always tell me the truth. They have to be very pleasing. They have to be loving. They should not hurt me. There is no confusion there. But then you also know that they also have the same expectation. That is good enough to arrive at certain common values like ahimsa, satyam, etc. Because these are all common expectations, what we call as golden rule and all that, correct? These things are nothing great. You don't require some Bhagavan to come and give it to you like a 10 commandments or anything. These things all human beings know. That's what we call as conscience, correct? We are all born with a certain conscience. That conscience represents the certain value structure which we have. And that means the value structure tells you what is right and wrong. In a given situation, we all have the capability. Already Bhagavan has given us that capability, correct? That's the Jnana Shakti. We have Icha Shakti, that is also Bhagavan. But to fulfill your Icha, you cannot do anything, correct? You have a free will, but you cannot abuse the free will also, because the free will has to be, even though it is free will, it has to be still guided properly. In fact, because it is a free will only, it requires a certain guidance, correct? So, how do you get that guidance? Means the value structure is the guidance. And that value structure is already there in you. That is also manifest as Jnana Shakti. Bhagavan is already manifest as the Samanya Dharma in each and every one of us. We know what is right, what is wrong. Now we have two sets, correct? One is my likes and dislikes. One is what is right, what is wrong. These two things are there. Okay. Now how do they intersect? There the problem starts. Now, if what I like is what is right, in fact, there is no problem. That intersection is good intersection. I am spontaneously dharmic. I am happy. Everybody else also is happy because you are not treading on somebody else's toes. Correct? Similarly, what you don't like is what is wrong. Also, there is no issue. These two things are very good. But then most of the time it is not like that, correct? Whatever I like is either illegal, immoral, or calorific. Somebody said like that. So that becomes a problem then. That is the human problem. On a day-to-day life, if you look at it, what is the human problem? The human conflict is that how do I manage what is right and what is my likes and dislikes? This is our everyday problem. And Gita is addressing that in fact. So Bhagavan says, in such a situation, what do you do? If you go along with your likes and do the wrong thing, it's a bad bargain actually. That also one has to understand. A child does not understand that. See, for a child, when it is growing up, everything is I. The child does not even have an idea of the other or what the other thinks. Other people are there and they have their own thoughts or they have similar expectation like me and all. Child doesn't understand. That's why child can throw a tantrum. Child wants whatever it wants, regardless of whether it is possible or not, etc. Children, then the parents have to handle. But once the child is growing up and it is maturing, then we all understand. As we grow up, we understand that others also have similar expectations, similar feelings, and based on that, we are developing our values also. And those samanya dharma are there, and we have to follow that. And if you are able to follow that, in spite of your likes and dislikes, you are then becoming an adult. You are becoming a mature person. That is the emotional maturity we are talking about, correct? So, adult means physically becoming an adult is you don't have to do anything. As long as your mother is feeding you, you will become adult physically. Intellectually, also, we all become adults because you go to school, you pass some exams, teachers are teaching you. That is also not a big deal. Most of the people, at least up to high school, you study means you have gained a certain intellectual maturity. You know basic language skills, analytical skills are there. Rest of the things are all only your interests. You can then pursue whatever you want, whether formally in an academic setting or informally. Also, there are so many great people, intellectuals who never went to school after a certain level. Correct? You can learn yourself. It's not a big deal. Once you have the basic verbal and quantitative and analytical skills, learning rest of the things you can do at any time. So intellectually also you will become mature. But one thing which you will automatically not become mature is emotionally becoming mature. And emotionally, what is my problem? My problem is how do I manage my likes and dislikes? That is the problem. And that's what Gita is addressing in fact. In fact, Arjuna had a problem because he knew what is the right thing to do because they have been wronged. Okay, adharma has been done to the Pandavas and they have come to the brink of the war and they are already in the battlefield. And then people are there on the other side. They are all standing with adharma means you have to fight them. There is no other way. But then those people are people whom he likes, correct? They are his own acharya. Acharya, pitara, putraha. And all that he says that they are all standing on the other end. How will I fight them? And by killing them and fighting them, I don't even want to go to Swarga and all he says. Even if I go to Swarga, I will not be happy. In fact, with whom I wanted to be happy, I am now in a situation where I have to fight with them only. So then, even if I win, also I am a loser. And if I lose, also I am a loser. Both way, it is not working out for me. So now you have to teach me what is Shreyas. He says that in that situation. So Arjuna also has this problem of even though if I do the right thing, I am not, uh, I won't be in a situation where I'll be happy. So that is another level of maturity. First level of maturity is that you should be able to do what is right in a given situation, regardless of your likes and dislikes. That shows a certain level of emotional maturity. But then further, if you want to become a mukshu, what is the next level of understanding? Even if I do everything right, any karma phala, any phala I am getting is not going to make me totally happy or totally content. because of my own vision of myself as a limited individual being, always there is going to be some problem. So even the right choice may not make me happy always. Then what is my fundamental problem I have to see? Once you come to that, then only Vedanta is coming. So till then, Krishna never taught Arjuna any Vedanta. They were together, they were going all over the place and all that I told you. But here, then explicitly in the second chapter, after, in fact, when Arjuna says, I won't fight, and he puts his Gandiva down, then Krishna even then did not immediately teach Vedanta. He just told him some advice. He said, Klaibyam masmagam of Partha, Naitatva yupapadyate, Shudram hridaya daurpalyam. So what is this weakness in your heart? This thing is not proper. You give it up, all this weakness and all. But Arjuna is a great warrior. You cannot tell he is weak or anything like that. But Bhagavan says that Anarya Justam Aswargyam Akirtikaram Arjuna. And all this he is saying him. He just gave him some advice like that. Then on hearing that he says, now how will I kill all my gurus? These are all people I have. They are all pujarha, he says. They are worthy of my worship. You only have to tell me what is Shreyas. Like that he says then. Because now fundamentally I am seeing myself that I am not going to be happy whichever way it goes. So what is the Shreyas for me here? What is the ultimate good? Shreyas is moksha really. The word Shreyas is used even in the Kathopanishad. Shreyascha, Preyascha. Like that. Shreyas, I want Shreyas, he says. Because he now sees a certain fundamental problem in himself. And then he says, Shishyasteham. I am your Shishya. But there also it shows a certain confidence of Arjuna that he thought that he is qualified to be a Shishya of Krishna. Because he is a very accomplished person otherwise. And he thinks that I am qualified to learn from Krishna. So he says, Shishyasteham Shadimam. May you teach me. Because I have now I have surrendered to you and I am your Shishya. Then only Bhagavan starts teaching. And the teaching is beautiful, correct? It starts with Ashocyan Anvashochastvam. So Gita teaching itself is what? It starts with you are grieving for that which should not be grieved for. Then finally it also Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tva Sarva Papebhyaha Mokshayishyami Ma Shuchaha. So teaching is what? It starts with Ashocyan and Ma Shucha, correct? So do not grieve. The entire Gita is about getting you out of all your problems, sorrow, or solving your fundamental problem again. That is the subject matter of Vedanta. And Gita also is, the entire thing is within that. Then, but what is the teaching then? How do I not grieve? Means you have to have a certain cognitive change, correct? How I look at myself, the world, everything has to change. Because the way you are looking at yourself and the world currently is no good, because that's why you are in sorrow. So continuing in the same thing is not going to solve anything for you. That means you have to be ready. Many people are ready, correct? If you are pushed into a certain corner, then you have a certain openness also comes there. You think that now I have to change. There is no other way. Otherwise, change itself is not very easy, correct? Everybody is a status quoist only, correct? We all want to be as we are. As long as something happens, till something happens and all that, we are not ready to relook at ourselves or be like prepare ourselves for some change and all that. That itself is not an easy thing. But here Arjuna is pushed into a certain corner and then he is open. Now he says, you teach me. Then Bhagavan teaches. And what is the teaching? He is directly teaching about Atma. What is the nature of Atma? And in the context of the war, he says, this Atma can never be killed. It is neither a killer nor can it be killed. Correct? And this Atma is not a prameya, he says. Aprameya. It's a very interesting word, correct? Because I, whatever I say as I, I is an eternal subject. It can never be an object of knowledge. And for something to be destroyed, it has to be objectified, correct? Unless you objectify something, it cannot be destroyed. And Bhagavan says that you are not an object. You are never an object. You never become an object of any karmendriya or jnanendriya. Or you never become an object of any kind of instrument or any panchabhutas also, correct? That's why our Swamiji was quoting this particular verse, correct? That Achedyo yamadahyoyam akledyo shoshya evacha nitya sarvagata sthanuhu achaloyam sanatanaha. All these verses are there. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, na chainam kledayantyaapaha, na shoshayati marutaha. Means this Shastra means Shastra is a weapon you hold in your hand. Astra means something you leave like a rocket. So Shastra cannot cut me. Any weapon cannot cut me because I am not an object. I am not available as an object. Nainam chindanti shastrani. Nainam dahati pavaka. Fire cannot burn me because I am not an object which can be burnt by fire. Then I cannot be drowned in water also because I am not again an object which can be pushed under the water. Like this, he lists everything. Then you can say, no, what about me? I can be easily drowned in this Ganga or whatever, or I can be burnt means. So that is where the drishti has to change. Because Vedanta itself is very simple teaching. Let me tell you, the simplest Vedanta teaching and whatever vichara you have to do is, whatever I see is not I. That's all is Vedanta. There is nothing more to Vedanta. In fact, it's the simplest teaching. Everything is only, it's all only details, and whatever question you ask, we have to give you answer. Correct? But fundamentally, the thing which you have to be aware of, alert, is what? Whatever I see is not I. Now, what do I see? Is this mouse I? Means no. Nobody has any confusion with reference to this mouse or table or this mic and all that. But as soon as, even with reference to the clothes also, you have no confusion. Nobody says, I am this Angavastra or I am this shirt and all that. Up to that, there is no confusion because these are all objects of my knowledge. I am the subject who is cognizing this. As soon as it comes to the body, confusion starts. Do you know the body or not? I know the body. I know this is my hand. But if the hand is having a small cut, you say, I am cut. How can you be cut? Because whatever you see is not you. Whatever I see is not I. If you are able to objectify and cognize the body, I am not the body. That rule you have to apply rigorously. Similarly, I am hungry. Okay, hunger, you know the hunger, correct? Hunger is a physiological process. Thirst is a physiological process. Again, it's an object of your knowledge. You cannot attribute it to I because it's something you know. Whatever happens in your mind, all your thoughts also you know. I know what is happening in my mind. In fact, I thought itself is only a thought. I am doing this, I am a karta, bhokta, you say. I am really independent of the I thought also because even without thinking of, even when the I thought is not there, I am there. Correct or not? I am there independent of my I thought also. But I thought is the individuality I was telling already. Correct? The I thought also appears only in the mind. It is a thought as opposed to everything this thought you can say. Both are thoughts. I as an entity is actually, I am independent of even the I thought also. So I have to see, to know my reality, I have to look into the source of the I thought also, which is what is that I am a conscious being. to whom everything becomes evident. And whatever is becoming evident is not I, obviously, because it's all objects of my cognition. Correct? Whatever I know can never be I. The I is always the one to whom everything becomes evident. The eternal subject, who is the conscious being, you can say. That conscious being alone is I. So are you able to hold on to that I? That is the question. Correct? Because the Naisargikaha Adhyasaha, like that, that's how Bhashyakara starts in the Brahma Sutra Bhashya. He starts like this, correct? Yushmad, Asmad, Pratyaya, Gochara Yoho, Vishaya, Vishayinoho. Like that he says, there is a Yushmad means this, Asmad means I. There are two things in this world, this and I. The entire universe can be divided into only this and I. But they are two different things. Like he says they are tamah prakashavat viruddha swabhavayoho and all that. They are like opposed to each other, like light and darkness, because this is jada. I am a conscious being. This everything, this is only an object of knowledge. It is all, it's insentient. But still, itara bhava anupapatta is there. They cannot be, you cannot mistake one for the other, but still we take one as the other, and one's dharma as the other's dharma. Like this, only he starts. So he starts with that. That is the problem, in fact. So I take this as I. The properties of this becomes the properties of I, qualities of I. So if the body is fat, I am fat. Body is dark, I am dark. These are all adhyasa. It's not reality. It's only ignorance. These are all wrong cognition. Atasmin tad buddhi, he says. Whatever is not there, you are seeing that. It is like seeing snake on the rope. Once you see the snake on the rope, there is fear. There are so many things are happening. Then how do we solve that? Even if you run away from there, you still think snake is there. Correct? That also is not a solution. The only solution is to know that there is no snake really. Only rope is there. That knowledge alone can free you. So that's how here also we are saying your fundamental problem cannot be cured, cannot be tackled or resolved by any activity, whatever you do. It is only a question of knowledge. Knowledge itself frees. Knowledge itself is freedom. In fact, all knowledge is freedom. In fact, any knowledge frees you from its corresponding ignorance. Correct? Knowledge frees you from ignorance and the effects of that ignorance also, because ignorance always has some effects also. Even if you see snake on the rope, the snake is not real, but it can still have an effect on you. It can create fear, etc. But the knowledge of rope again removes that fear also, along with the snake. The effects of that also goes away. So knowledge is what is required, and in this case, the knowledge is whatever I see is not I. Whatever I cognize, whatever is an object of my knowledge, object of my cognition can never be I. In that is included, in that your body mind sense complex also is included, because I know whether my eyes are seeing or not. I know whether my ears are hearing or not. I know whether my tongue is tasting or not. Correct? So I am not, but if the eyes don't see, I say I am blind. I am deaf. These are all again adhyasa. These are all you are imputing something which is not there on I to the I, and then you are in problem. So this is what you have to overcome. So Bhagavan directly goes and starts teaching Arjuna that the I, you are the aprameya Atma, which is neither a doer nor an enjoyer, nothing. It is just a conscious being. That's what you have to understand. This Atma can never be killed. Neither it is a killer, nor it can be killed by anything. So why are you even worrying about all these things? Anybody who has the Dehi is Nityam, he says. Dehi Nityam Avadhyoyam. Dehe Sarvasya Bharata, he says. The Dehi in each and every body is eternal. That conscious being, and in fact, it's not even different. Kshetrajnam chapimam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata, like that later on Bhagavan will say. Means there is only one kshetrajnaha, only one consciousness, which is the knower in each and every body, mind, sense complex. That is the teaching. Because nobody ever sees another consciousness, correct? Whatever you objectify is all only not conscious things only. It's all jada. Nobody sees another consciousness. There is only one consciousness. It is like the sun which is appearing in so many reflecting media as so many suns. That's how all this sentiency in different bodies is accounted for by only one consciousness. There are no many consciousnesses. Understand that? And whenever anybody says I, that I is really only that consciousness alone. Because everything else comes and goes. Your very individuality comes and goes. That I you have to hold on to as your identity. That is Vedanta. Vedanta is about knowing this I as the eternal, conscious, limitless being in whose presence everything is happening. That's all. Whatever is happening in this body, mind, sense complex also is happening in the presence of that conscious being alone. But my identity has to be with that and not with this puny body, mind, sense complex. So you identify yourself as like in that way is what Bhagavan is teaching in the second chapter. He teaches that, but he doesn't stop there. Then he starts giving some general advice also to Arjuna. He says, okay, all this is fine, but he says, anyway, you are not in control of all these things, correct? As a human being, we have our own circle of influence and all this people say nowadays, correct? What you can control is very few things. Your whole world is only few people, correct? We are all born. We only know some 50, 100 people in our whole lifetime. That is our world, in fact. We live within that, and then it's all gone. So even as a practical advice, what Bhagavan says, Tasmad apariharyete natvam shochitum arhasi, he says. So first he teaches him the nature of Atma and says from that standpoint also you should not be grieving because Atma is never going to be destroyed. It's neither a destroyer nor can it be destroyed. But even otherwise, all these things are not under your control. Already you are in the battlefield. If you run away also, Duryodhana is going to spread all only misinformation about you, correct? He will be telling everybody that Arjuna is a coward, he ran away as soon as he saw me. So do you want that? And this battle will anyway take place. It's beyond your control now. So why are you even worrying about this? Even whether you fight or not, all these people are going to die. So it is not, you don't have any parihara with you. Apariharya it is. You cannot do anything about it. Then whatever is to be done, you do. That's what Bhagavan is saying. Apariharyerte natvam shochitum. You don't grieve about this because grief, sorrow and all is immobilizing. See, that is the problem. You become immobilized, you become helpless, you cannot do anything, and then you are in some kind of depression and all that. But if you start doing something, if you mobilize yourself, there is no more grief. Grief cannot be there once you start doing something. Whatever it is to be done, if you start doing that, there is no more grief. Then you are focused on doing whatever it is to be done. So Bhagavan says you do something, whatever is to be done here, you have to fight. And he says even if you die, it is fine, you'll go to Swarga. Swarga dwaram apavritam. Swarga, the doors of the Swarga are open for you. You fight and die, that is fine. Otherwise, you win and then you enjoy the entire kingdom here. And for a Kshatriya, this Akirtim Chapi Mam, this Akirti is more than even death, he says. This infamy is even worse than death for you, so you have to fight anyway. Like that he says. But then he goes on to teach him a certain attitude also. Buddhi Yoga. What is that Buddhi Yoga? That is applicable to each and every one of us. So once we have a certain maturity, we have to fight in our life also. But what is the attitude there? The attitude is whether you win or lose, you have to do the right thing in any given situation. And whatever comes, you accept that as Ishvara Prasada. That is what we call Ishvararpana Buddhi. You are taking part in this creation, which is a great yajna. You do your part in this, whatever is to be done in a given situation. And whatever result comes, you are ready to take it with Samatva Buddhi, Samatvam Yoga Uchyate. That is the Karma Yoga. So Bhagavan teaches Karma Yoga to Arjuna, and Bhagavan feels that Arjuna is only fit for Karma Yoga in that situation, because he wants to live and go and become a sannyasi actually. Arjuna is always interested in sannyasa. In fact, if you see all the questions, it is all like that. He says, you talk about jnana as the greatest thing, but ask me to do karma. Vyamishreneva vakyena buddhim mohayasi iva me, he says. At the beginning of the third chapter, it's very interesting. He says, as though you are confusing me and deluding me. You are using confusing, your teaching is confusing me, and it is as though you are deluding me, and all he says that. Because in his mind, he always wants to give up everything. He doesn't want to fight, basically. But Bhagavan keeps on saying, no, you have to fight, but with the right attitude. Giving up is not an option for you right now. So that's how the Gita keeps on going. So in the second chapter itself, the Brahma Vidya and Yoga Shastra both are talked about. Karma Yoga is told, and that Samatvam Yoga Uchyate is there. The teaching is there. That yoga is to have the Samatva Buddhi. The Samatva Buddhi can only be there with reference to the results of the action. Action anybody can do, in fact, different ways we can do. There is no Samatvam in action. But the only Samatvam, and in the results also there cannot be Samatvam, because results are unpredictable, correct? It can be as you expected, it can be different from your expectation, it can be high, it can be low, it can be something totally opposite. That's not under our, we don't control everything in this world. But we have to put in our effort. Then where can be the samatvam or equanimity? The equanimity is only with reference to the results of the action. That comes by understanding this fact itself, that I am not the one who is controlling everything, correct? The results can be anything. But the only way we can accept it cheerfully is that it is prasada. Like even you go to the temple, the prasada buddhi is ingrained in our culture, correct? That's the beauty. You go to the temple, you don't fight with the pujari saying, no, I only want laddu. You cannot give me this basma and all that. I don't want ash. I want only laddu. Do you fight like that? We don't fight on all that, correct? Whatever comes from the altar of Bhagavan, we have a certain attitude towards that. Prasada itself is not an object, really. What makes something into a prasada? How does an object become prasada? Our own attitude only makes it prasada, correct? That we have a reverential attitude towards whatever we receive from the altar of Bhagavan, and we are ready to receive it also cheerfully and with the equanimity, correct? We don't say that no, he got more than me and he got laddu, I got only tirtham, water. We are not fighting like that. So our attitude towards the prasada in the temple, you have to then expand it to your entire life. That is karma yoga. And the benefit of that is what? You have a certain mental disposition. You overcome your likes and dislikes. So as I told you, likes and dislikes, right and wrong. The conflict between the two is the human conflict, in fact. Then how do I overcome that? By having this attitude that I will do whatever it is to be done. And even if the results are not to my liking, I take it as prasada. Now that attitude, if you have, means you are the master of your likes and dislikes, not the other way around. Then you become qualified for Vedanta. And then Bhagavan teaches Vedanta also there. So he has completed the entire teaching in the second and third chapter. And fourth chapter is starting. He says, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. How does it start? Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavanaham Avyayam Vivasvan Manave Praha Manurikshvakave Bravit Evam Parampara Praptam Imam Rajarshayo Viduhu Sakale Neha Mahata Yogo Nashtaf Parantapa. Like that, he's saying, this yoga I taught to Vivaswan. How can Krishna teach it to Vivaswan who was there long before and all that? That Arjuna will question. We'll see all that in the next class. Okay. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om